welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and delighted to have in the studio, as always, Dr. Joel Klein. He's with us from Ventana Wellness, and we're talking about folic acid today. And interesting topic, because earlier, Dr. Klein, I said, that's vitamin C. Then I was corrected, it was vitamin B. And I thought, well, BC, that's close enough. No.
Yeah, that's good.
Why did you select this?
So I thought that because this has been getting a lot more press recently, although it's actually a 45-year-old story, of the role that the genetic differences, it turns out, in the way that people use folic acid. Actually, it should be folate. Folate is the B. It is a B vitamin. You know, the B's is a whole family of vitamins. We have, you know, well, you can number them: B1, B2, B3, which are thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, B12. People, because they don't want to really say, cobalamin or however, or pyridoxine, which is B6. So it's a whole family, and the folate is a member of that family. Folic acid is the chemical form of that vitamin that is typically used in supplements or added to food. And we're discovering that genetic differences in the way people use it and metabolize it are playing a huge role in increased risk of a number of problems, including cardiovascular disease, maybe even cancer, depression, and of course we've known for a while now that issues that have to do with deformities in newborns in the brain and spinal cord. But the cardiovascular and depression thing is getting a lot more press now.
Okay, so is that why we need it?
Yes. Well, one of the thing is, without getting too complicated, one of the main things what folate does in terms of metabolic reactions in our body, it's what's called a methyl donor, but this plays a huge role in the regulation of our genes. The way our body biochemically turns on and off genes, and I think we've talked on this on the show before, about how it's actually not what's in your genes, but how they're read and how they're turned on and off that they have discovered is the issue. So what's in our genes may be the hardware, but it's the software of how they're read that actually makes the difference. And a big part of that has to do with things that we get from folate.
All right, so you're seeing it packaged differently, Super B's, in the store, and
well, that's been for decades and decades. I mean, this has been, this was all based on very good science, but bad things were done on it. This is Roger Williams, Linus Pauling, going back into the 1940s, where they noticed that enzyme activities, if they just measured, they didn't even know what DNA structure was then. This is before Watson and Crick. But they noticed in healthy people that enzyme activities could vary as much as 200-fold in normal, healthy people. And they realized enough, they didn't know how, but that was due to genetic differences. So that if you had a weaker form of the enzyme genetically, you can accelerate the rate of that enzyme, or actually you could increase the byproduct by increasing what the vitamin uses, and the enzyme uses. And all these B vitamins are cofactors in all these metabolic enzymatic activities in our body. So they realized that people were deficient, or they had a sluggish form of the enzyme. If you give them more of the vitamin, it can compensate for that. This is where all this came from in the first place. And actually Roger Williams wrote an article in the New England Journal of Medicine in 1949 suggesting that if we could map out people's genetic differences nutritionally, we could custom design nutritional programs for them.
All right, now before we get into the dosage, can you OD on B?
Certain ones, yes. It's pretty hard. What we found is that the main thing, you can OD on anything. Right. The biggest issue is mostly what they've come out with, because it would be really hard to OD on, you can OD on folate. People estimate that our diets going back may have had thousands of micrograms in them, because it comes from leafy greens, which we used to eat a whole lot of, except now basically what we eat is iceberg lettuce, which doesn't have very much of it. So, but B6 is one you can OD on, that people found when they took way too much of that, it actually caused neurologic problems.
All right, so what foods do contain it?
The leafy greens are the primary source of folate.
All right, now, I have a little pet peeve here, so forgive me if I shine in on this too hard, but are we really getting the nutrients in these leafy greens if in fact they're coming from other countries and what they have, how they've been treated by the time they get here.
I think it's more the stuff we're growing here. We're growing crops differently than we have for thousands of years. We're growing the same crop on the same plot of land for productivity issues, so you basically deplete that soil. Right. We're not rotating crops. We're not allowing fields to go fallow, as we've known for time, so that now the vegetables, the plants are actually devoid in these nutrients, and they get depleted from the soil over time. Right. And yes, so that, you're right, that's an issue.
By the way, that's a biblical thing. You let a field go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so organic, is that better?
Organic we think is better. Now, people aren't testing this as well. The thing about organic is that what we know is that stressed plants, I think I've said this on the program before, botanically, stressed plants make more of these nutrients that we need. Most of these nutrients are defense chemicals for the plant. So when you take away all the stress from a plant, it doesn't make these nutrients. It can put all its effort into growth, which is actually more carbohydrate.
Okay. Before we get into the dosage and everything, how do we know that we're low on B?
This is the big issue. So what's happening is now, we've had blood tests. You know, there's a certain way, not everybody needs to do this, but you can now do blood tests. Of course, we've had this one blood test, again, this goes back to 1969, that this doctor at Harvard found that elevated levels of a compound called homocysteine in the blood increase risk of heart disease independently. Well, the homocysteine builds up when you're not getting enough folate for your genetic type. So we've been able to do homocysteine tests for decades. And that's one of the markers. What we're finding is that the two worst genetic mutations of this enzyme that people have that really can affect their folate, we can do blood tests for now. Okay. So people with family histories of coronary artery disease or people with cardiovascular disease, you can do this homocysteine test. And then people with depression or other what they would call neuropsychiatric problems that aren't responding normally, you can now do the genetic testing for these mutations. That's what's really coming about now. And now those we know we have to give more than even the normal vitamin supplementation to folks.
Okay, because B is also being used for stress, right?
Well, it's depleted in stress, so we need to use more of it when we're under stress.
How do you know what number to select between the B's and the 12s and the 6s?
For maybe 20 some years now, functional labs can do these tests that are still considered experimental, where you do a 24-hour urine collection for all these different metabolic compounds. And based on that, let's say if you either have high levels of one compound or low of another, they can work back in the biochemical pathway and say, aha, see, with these things going on, you're likely deficient in this because this is a cofactor in this, and this. So there's expensive medical testing that can be done. I wouldn't do it unless somebody was very sick. Yeah. So it's good to cover the bases, but with the folic acid issue, we have, especially if you have one of these problems that we've linked to it, we have blood tests that we can do to see, aha, you really need to take a much higher dose of folic acid, or actually there's a new vitamin form that wasn't available until maybe the past 5-10 years that can bypass the sluggish part of the reaction for people.
All right, so a multivitamin is probably not going to get it.
Not for people who have the mutations, and that's the issue. That was the one thing I wanted to address this morning, and I'll be frank, I haven't tested enough for this. I think I need to do more testing in my practice. Okay. Now that I've looked at this, and I really ought to do it for myself. Okay, we'll do physician heal thyself. There you go, because I have some issues there. So people with these kind of medical problems that aren't responding, or have, like say, the heart disease history, although to be fair, so far when they've done supplementation with people with heart disease and all that, the studies have not been they haven't been consistent. So there hasn't been a clear cut, oh wow, this really works. I think it's a factor. It's certainly, and doctors, I was just listening to a doctor who does functional treatment of Alzheimer's at UCLA using all these different things that we've talked about for 2 years now, or you've talked for longer with Nisha about the anti-inflammatory diet and all these different markers, and the homocysteine is one of them in actually reversing early Alzheimer's. Really? So, so for some of these issues, it's hard with the multivitamin supplementation. You're right. We really don't know. There's levels that people have looked at, but what I wanted to make sure is that this issue, if people have heart disease, family history of heart disease, depression, family history of depression, or other mental illness issues, we can now do blood tests to see if this is a factor. And there are people who don't respond to any antidepressants, and it turns out they have the mutations of folate, and you give them high doses of this special form of folic acid, and they get better.
Okay, what about this cocktail shot that they give you in the rump before?
Oh yeah. So we got the B12, the kicker.
Yeah.
Again, it is not a panacea, but see, there are a lot of people who are depleted in Bs because of stress.
Yeah.
B12 deficiency gets more common as you get older because we don't digest it in our stomach as well.
Right.
So a lot of people can get benefit for that. It is not a cure. It certainly can help folks if they're deficient. It's certainly not a panacea, but it helps a lot of folks.
All right. Dr. Joel Klein's with us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the dosage and some areas for you to consider. Right. If you're taking a multi, you may want to say, well, maybe not the multi. Maybe I'll take some B and C.
Or you just want to take a good multi, and that we'll talk about when we get back.
All right. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Welcome back. Dr. Joel Klein's with us today from Ventana Wellness. And by ventanawellness.com is the website. And let me encourage you to check it out. They got a great resource. Their clinic is expanding. You're full service. Everything, right?
We're doing more and more, and we're actually interviewing people for even more services.
Really?
Type of things that we want to bring as much in-house as possible with our own people.
I will say this, that Ventana Wellness has found the balance between natural health and Western medicine. I mean, you guys have really figured out.
And that's what I've been trying to do for the past, especially 14 years, is really find the best balance. Not everybody, I tell people, if you're drowning, I don't have time for swimming lessons. So people are really in trouble. We don't use supplements right off, maybe we need to use medicines to get you out of trouble and then try to look for a better longer term approach.
Well said. All right, so we're talking about folic acid, vitamin B, how much, when, how. Now, going into the break, you said yes, a multivitamin should still be in the diet or still be in the plan.
I think so, because I just take a B because I do these green smoothies with all these organic veggies and all this other stuff. So,
yeah, you look great. How
much weight
you lost?
Well, that was different. I lost about 17. No, I gained 3 back in Mexico.
You look great.
That was
so vitamin multi.
Yeah, the regular. I don't want to use brands because we'll get into trouble. But the regular cheap things that you just get in the drugstore, for the most part, depending the cheap things, the brands that everybody's heard. Says more doctors, recommend this. Well, that's because. No offense, but doctors don't know very much about nutrition because those are the only ones they know about. Yeah. So they'll say those, but those usually are poor quality, not only in doses, but also in the form that things are in. It also depends, the chemical form, particularly that minerals are in, will determine whether you even absorb them. So it can be in the vitamin, but your body won't use them. Okay. So a lot of the better brands that are usually in health food store, vitamin stores that are more complete multivitamins, a lot of people go for these whole food types of vitamins. And those can be really good. But the problem is what the RDA is, the recommended daily allowance, is just enough to keep you from getting a deficiency disease from that vitamin. It is not enough for optimal function. This has been the discussion for decades and decades and decades that people don't understand. And the doctors will just say, well, you're just making expensive urine. But it's not, and this is what we found for optimal function, particularly, let's say, like folate. The RDA, I think, is 400 micrograms or maybe even less than that. We find people with this condition may need 15,000 milligrams of the active form of folic acid to take care of these genetic things and something like that. And there are companies that are making those supplements now. There are also medical food that, of course, costs a lot more money because the drug company had to get FDA approval for this form of what's called L-methylfolate. Brand name is Deplin, but it's usually a lot more expensive, and insurance doesn't cover it a lot of the time. So, but you can get the good vitamins from different places.
All right, I have noticed the difference in stress when I take a Super B. I mean, it does chill me out.
Right. Well,
I mean, I don't feel euphoric, but I notice that my MO is different.
Most of the B vitamins,
Yeah.
zinc and magnesium are the big three that are depleted in stress.
Okay.
So those are the ones that most people need to, would do best at a minimum supplementing, even if they're not doing all of the others. If they're like most of us, if they're blissfully doing their spiritual meditations and they're living in prayer and bliss, maybe they don't need to do that, but most of the rest of us probably ought to be doing that.
Okay. All right, so how much B?
Well, that's this is the issue, because again, there's a whole family of 13 or I don't know how many different Bs in there. If somebody wants to supplement, they'll usually you'll find something called a B50 or even a B100. It's a 100 milligram that I would have people take one a day. They put those sometimes they'll make these called stress Bs that have the vitamin C in them as well. Again, the good multivitamins, which you're never going to get a good multivitamin that you can just take one pill a day. There's way too many things that you need, so it's usually going to be one of these. You got to take 4 or 6 of them a day, and people got to go, wow, I got to take 4 or 6. Well, to really get decent nutrients, and some of those nutrients, like calcium and magnesium, take up a lot of physical space in a capsule. So there's only so big you can make the capsule and put them in there. You're going to typically get better doses. So it would be hard. I would have to have even a sheet. I usually have to have a sheet in front of me to run down. I know basic doses of some of these things, but we have to run down, okay, how much thiamine, how much riboflavin. But those B50, B100s are a good place to start if people want to supplement a whole B complex, because most people need that.
Okay, because you see them with different levels, and I never knew with the 6 to 12 which one you want most of.
Yeah, well, you don't. Well, that's the thing. Hopefully good companies are doing a good balance. The only difference is now B12, which we can do blood levels of, especially as we get older and don't do well. The problem is we don't absorb it from our stomachs as well. So people that I want on B12, I will use a tablet that dissolves under the tongue, which typically comes in 1,000 micrograms. There are some you can actually find 2,500. Since those have come out in general, I have rarely had to put people on B12 shots like I used to when they were deficient like that, because those sublingual tablets for under the tongue seem to work really well.
All right, I'm just making a little list here. All right, so if you're going to be healthy in all of our discussions, today's B, we've talked about C, we got to do some D.
And typically 2 to 5,000.
Magnesium and calcium.
That's what I'm saying. So if you're buying a really good supplement from a really good company, and then most of those things are going to be in there. Or usually, again, because it's so much, you may have to buy, and this is why companies make these, but again, this is a whole long discussion about what form they're in. They'll do a whole multi and then have a separate calcium, magnesium, zinc supplement for that. So you sometimes wind up actually need to do 2 things.
And by the way, the magnesium, calcium, zinc, you should have those. Those should happen all the time.
Well,
right?
that's debatable too. We've pushed this calcium business.
Do the calcium without the magnesium and zinc.
And the calcium by itself actually is a problem. And again, doctors don't have a clue, but it can actually cause increased irritation in the nervous system, stone issues, and all the rest of them. Calcium, we've pushed this so long, and in Britain, again, because they have an economic stake on what they pay for in their national health system, has looked at this, and they've really found that people need maybe 750 milligrams of calcium, and this is even postmenopausal women.
Wow.
And you get that in your diet. All this calcium supplementation stuff that we have just spouted for years probably doesn't have a great deal of evidence to it as what's really needed, but the magnesium is the problem. Magnesium deficiency, insomnia, palpitations, spasms, tremors, all of these different types of things, anxiety that I have found related to magnesium, and most of the magnesium supplements out there have a hard to digest form of magnesium. It's the cheapest one they get, called magnesium oxide. Magnesium citrate's okay. You find better what are called amino acid chelates. I know we're getting more technical here, but they're bound to amino acids. So you'll see something called magnesium malate or magnesium glycinate. These are more easily digested by people. Most of these cheap ones you'll see it's all magnesium oxide, and unless you're 22 years old, you're not going to digest magnesium oxide very well.
All right, so what are the signs of B deficiency?
That can be anything. I mean, most people will know it's fatigue. Obviously, fatigue, brain fog, but again, those are also hormonal, so this is why we have to kind of really address everything, and it's difficult to do. But those will be usually some of the big ones, is concentration and memory, mental functioning and energy are going to be some of the bigger ones that people will notice.
So fatigue, that happens a lot.
Right. Migraine headaches actually can respond to higher doses of vitamin B2, riboflavin. Sometimes that's been noted.
Does folic acid have any kind of contribution for or against cancer?
Yes, because it's gene regulation. And what happens in genes? We have mutations. So genetic issues, there are some evidence of folate playing a role in cancer or anti-cancer. Again, it's not going to work. You just don't take folate if you have cancer. But as part of a general regimen, if you want to try to do the best you can for nutritional cancer prevention, yes, folate would be one of the big ones in there, because it is absolutely involved in genetic translation and maintenance of genes.
Wow. All right. I know it wasn't on our thing, but I'm just curious, because we're going into, we're 20 days away now from spring. Good weather. Is B something that helps with skin issues and sunlight and all that? Not,
everything helps with everything, but those would not be my go-to, the first things that I would think of when you think of allergies. Allergies, more vitamin C, helping stabilize these mast cells and histamine.
Because
and
things are
some other
blossoming
things.
now. People are starting to sneeze.
Yeah, it's already. Again, remember, guys, I'm a little bit newer here, so when I see daffodils in February, I'm kind of stunned. Where I lived at 7,000 feet, they came up in April and they always got snowed on.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But yes, but I wouldn't. While these are important, I wouldn't say these would not be the first things I would think of if you're talking about allergies, in general, eczema issues.
Okay. Because people are starting to sneeze now and,
Right.
and clog up with all that.
Those can actually, vitamin C, quercetin is a vitamin, what's called a bioflavonoid that is helpful with that. The herb stinging nettles. So some of these companies will make supplements with quercetin and stinging nettles in there together that can help people with allergies.
All right, back to the a cocktail shot
Right.
that had the bee in it.
Right.
I had it. I had that shot about 4 days before I ran the Pear Blossom. This was years ago
Right.
when I used to run. Wow.
Yeah. So again, this is not a panacea for everybody, but that meant you were depleted.
Really?
Sure. Yeah, it's not like it's going to give you energy just by itself.
No, but
typically.
the endurance level was terrific.
That's the whole point. You were depleted already. You didn't know it because it's subtle. These are subtle reactions, and that shot got you for temporarily back up to a healthier level where you could perform at a better function.
All right.
Sure.
And they're good for what? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Well, depends.
Yeah.
I've had some patients over time that needed to do them more frequently, but we typically because for insurance coverage and some other issues, we were only able to do them every 2 weeks.
Low testosterone and B, is there a connection there?
Not connection, but certainly will add up synergistically to making you feel bad. Sure,
Okay.
they both deal with energy.
Okay.
So now I'd have to research my biochemistry to remember if bees play a role in any of the testosterone or hormonal biochemical synthesis things. I'm not so sure. There may be a role in there, but certainly together they will multiply each other's effects.
All right. Well, Joel, you're a delight.
Okay, well, thanks. Always happy to help and try to be a
Well, you're inspiring. And I really appreciate his approach to medicine, and I want to encourage you that if you don't have a good doctor, here's a good one, and check it out at ventanawellness.com, and really a balanced approach to your health. And what I like is you guys always do the blood thing. I just think blood's kind of like the
it's really
the manual
helpful
to what's going on.
Yeah, but it's a guideline. The more I've done this over 33 years, there's a lot of times when I tell people I have to actually even enact this ancient esoteric medical technique I call treating the patient, not the lab test.
There you go.
Because the people tell me what's going on even more so than the lab sometimes. But we use them both.
Check it out, ventanawellness.com. Thanks, Joel.
Great, thanks, Barry.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. Earlier, our Steve Johnson had a chance to interview Chad Robichaux. He's the author of a very interesting book called The Redeployment, who talks about the problems with PTSD. So let's join Steve and Chad in their conversation.
Chad Robichaux is our guest today, and especially with the movie American Sniper, I think it's brought to the attention the problems that people who've been in the military have had once they come back to the United States. It's not the first time that we've been aware of this, but I think it's just heightened that awareness. And he's the author of a book called Redeployed, and he's a returning Special Ops Marine and now the director of Mighty Oaks Warriors. Boy, we have a lot of stuff to talk about in just a few minutes, Chad. Thanks for joining us by the side of the road in your pickup.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Where are you on your way to?
We're coming from Southern California, where we mostly work with the Marines here on the West Coast, and just heading back home.
I see. Would that be like Camp Pendleton in Southern California?
That's right. That's right. And we're heading back to Central Coast, California, where we have this week we have a group of Marines coming in to do our next veteran session. Okay,
now is that at Mighty Oaks Warriors, that particular facility? Is that right?
That's right. We use a ranch called Skyrose Ranch, and we get we do 1 to 2 groups a month, and we hold a maximum of 35 guys there, and we're max capacity each time. So we'll have on Sunday we'll have 35 guys. Of those will be 20 brand new students coming through the program. Primarily veterans of PTSD.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that. So these are not just veterans, but they also have post-traumatic stress disorder. Is that right? Like a clinical diagnosis of that?
That's right. They're coming with it. Most of them, I'd say over 90% of them will have a clinical diagnosis of PTSD. A large majority of them are not veterans, but are on active duty with the military still, and we get them on permissive TAD orders from the Marine Corps and the Navy. And so most of our guys are coming in on official military orders as a non-clinical solution, which I think is really important to state that when it deals with PTSD and suicide, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we're non-clinical approach to therapy.
All right, and I want to ask you a little bit more about that. One of the numbers that I've been amazed at that I've seen recently is the estimate when you look at how many people have died of suicide. More than 20 veterans per day commit suicide. That's a hard number to kind of wrap your head around. And I guess what you're trying to do is make sure, of course, that number doesn't happen while you work with these veterans. What, if you can summarize it, what is it you do?
Well, I think we have a very unique methodology. We didn't realize it at the time, but looking backwards at what we do, we're definitely very unique and very different in our approach. We feel like we have beaten the war on suicide through our methodology, with the fact that we've had 650 very high risk combat veterans come through our program, and we've had 0 suicides of any of our alumni. And the methodology, and by the way, our programs we have initial contact of 6 days. Many clinical treatment programs, you're talking 6-month inpatient or just ongoing daily or weekly therapy, where we're bringing the guys to a decision point in a period of 6 days, very intensive 6 days, in a peer-based contrast model. And when I say a contrast model, basically what we're doing is we're giving them a blueprint of life. In particular cases, because our programs are gender specific, we give them a blueprint of manhood and contrast that to their life. And what they realize in dealing with PTSD is that although they may have had a significant incident or trauma in Iraq or Afghanistan, that isn't the reason for the things that are happening in their life, the choices they're making every day, and bring them to the conclusion and the choice and the realization that the things that are happening in their life are based on the choices they make every day, not some incident that happened in the past. And showing them that they do have control of their life again, that they are still capable of continuing to fight for the hard things in their life, and giving them back control. And in doing that, we found that while the memories and the things that are associated with PTSD may not go away, they become manageable, and the guys could sustain life and actually be productive moving forward. And by the way, and I know it's a Christian show, the model and methodology we use is a Christian blueprint of manhood. By design, we show them how they were designed to live.
Well, that is really an amazing record that you've had. 650 you were mentioning in such a brief period of time. How did you come up with this plan anyway?
Well, I was the first case study because I came home a train wreck, and then wrecked my family and my life, and through the redemption and recovery of that, I was walked through this same model by a mentor named Steve Toth. He stepped into my life and mentored me, and all the things that I tried to do to put my life back together, he guided me through by showing me this blueprint of manhood. And what I found, all the pills that I was given before, all the counseling, all the things that I tried before, while they didn't work, this new concept of just living by design put me on a platform and a position to rebuild my life. And then getting on the other side of that, I realized that I wasn't the only one. There were so many veterans like me struggling, obviously with 23 suicides a day, with an 80 to 90% divorce rate and amongst our combat veterans, that I wasn't the only one, and realized that, man, this would work for me. I have to share with the next guy. And that's really what our program is when they get there, they think they're coming for help, but we tell them right away, like, you think you came here for help, but what you really came here for is to get well so you could help the next guy. And it's a peer-to-peer model. We don't claim to be clinical. We want to be an alternative solution to clinical help. While clinical help is necessary, and psychologists are a necessary part of the solution, we just want to be an alternative to that. And what we've been is a very successful alternative, and we've gained the trust of the United States Marine Corps and the military, and the U.S. Navy, and now moving into some really strong relationships with the Army, and just implementing a different solution. That solution is coming in line with exactly the life that Christ has laid out for us to live.
Oh, that is amazing. Let me ask you.
The guys don't have to be, the guys that come, not all of them are Christians. We have atheists, Buddhists, you name it, that come. We do it in a way that's it's real opening to people that have different beliefs than us, but they just have to trust us to present this model to them.
Now you're dealing, of course, with the actual soldier who's coming back. Do you also deal with the family at all? I mean, it's only 6 days, so that's pretty intense, but I would imagine that they're trying to understand how is Dad different now that he's come back and all the rest. Do you work with them at all?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that's exactly what happens. The guys come home and they make these radical choices in only 6 days, and they come home. So we teach them how to implement that and make it sustainable and actually something that the family will accept. And then part of that process is they come for 6 days, but they come back at least 4 times is what we look for. Because again, we want to teach them how to pass it on, to their family, how to pass it on to the next guy, and we start employing them to be instructors to empower them to do exactly what we're doing. And so we're replicating ourselves through that process. In addition to having them do that, we bring the spouses. We have a spouse-specific program, which is gender specific as well. So we have a female program, which is all the spouses of the graduates. And then once they come through that, then we bring them through a marriage advance, which is an advanced training where we give them that blueprint, blueprint of the covenant marriage, and work on the entire family.
Before we get too far, I want to mention to our viewers and listeners that we're talking to Chad Robichaux, and he has done several things. Not only was he a Special Ops Marine, but he's co-author of the book Redeployed and director of Mighty Oaks Warriors. Is there a website people can go to find out more of what we've been talking about?
Yeah, it's mightyoaksprograms.org. And for any veterans that want to register, the program's completely free. It's free to veterans, free to the military, and all you have to do is get on the website, register, and we even cover travel in many cases.
Okay, how do how do they work to get to know who you are and find your website? Have they been in civilian life for a while and have these problems, and then somebody refers them? Is that how that happens?
Well, we have we have a pretty wide, a pretty broad spectrum of the folks that we bring in. Many of them are veterans who have been out. I do public speaking in churches. I do a lot of public speaking in churches. So those churches that I speak at, now the pastor has a resource and platform to help the veteran community. So oftentimes when guys become in crisis of suicide or divorce, a lot of times they reach out to the local church. So that's one way to reach the veterans. Other veteran organizations know about us now because we've been around for a while and have a track record of success. But primarily, our target is the active duty military. So we have relationships with the Wounded Warrior Battalions for the Marine Corps, the Warrior Transition Units for the Army, and in the Navy we've established relationships with the chaplaincy and the hospitals.
I see.
So they're our direct pipeline to the active duty military. While we love serving the veteran community that are already out, and we do, I'd say it's about 50-50 between active and guys that are out. We, as an organization, if we could catch the guys before they get out, if we could catch them while they're still in their units, then I feel like we could be much more successful. Reason being, and talking about suicide statistics, is we have 23 suicides a day in our veterans who are out of the military. While they're still in active duty, it's only one a day, a little over one a day. And so that kind of shows the pattern. If we could grab them before they get out, before they get in a desperate situation where they feel alone, where they start failing and falling on their face, because civilian life hits them in the face and they're just not able to reacclimate, we have a much higher rate of success in battling suicide.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, are there many programs like yours, or is yours pretty unique?
I wish I could say there was a ton of others like ours, but really there's not. And I really feel like we're the only ones doing what we're doing and the way we're doing it, utilizing this methodology and having the track record of success we have. I don't say that as being boasting or being overly proud of what we do. I am proud of what we do, but what our real goal is to replicate what we're doing. So we're packaging SOPs and standard operating procedures, and we're looking to expand and partner with other organizations to, instead of reinventing the wheel, finding partners that have hearts and want to help veterans, and giving them something that's working, and not only working but vetted with the military and trusted by the military. So we're part of our expansion plan in 2015 is to have 10 new partners to replicate exactly what we're doing, and we're moving that way with not just with speed, with some very clear goals and maintaining the quality and integrity of what we do.
Well, thanks for stopping by. I want to let people know we've been talking to Chad Robichaux. He's co-authored the book Redeployed. We didn't even have time to talk about that, but you might want to look that up. He's a Special Ops Marine who has returned and is now director of Mighty Oaks Warriors. And let me get this right, Chad. It's mightyoaksprograms.org that people can get information, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Fascinating, to say the least. All right, coming up next, we're going to be talking to Elizabeth Spillman. She's the development coordinator for StandUpGirl.com, and it's coming to Medford. We'll talk about it in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I work at theDove TV. Compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. Well, one of the great events and organizations that come to Medford is StandUpGirl.com. I don't know if you have been familiar with that, but we're going to find out more about it. And an outstanding organization doing a great work. And again, StandUpGirl.com is the website. Delighted to have with us today their development coordinator, and that is Elizabeth Spillman, because of coming up March 19th in Medford, they'll be doing a special event here. Hi, Elizabeth. How you doing?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, first of all, for those who have not heard about Stand Up Girl, give us a quick update.
Okay. Well, we are primarily a website, but we are an organization that offers hope and encouragement and guidance to young women that are facing unplanned pregnancies. We have a website where girls can interact and speak to other girls who have been in the same situation to get hope. We aim to offer life-affirming alternatives to abortion for these girls. We connect them with pregnancy resource centers in their area and their neighborhood where they can actually go and get help and connect with a network in their area. So we're really excited about what's come of this. And
you guys, you've been at it for a while, but the response to your organization and to your website's been pretty phenomenal, hasn't it?
It has, absolutely. We've grown tremendously in about 14 years that we've been up and running. We've grown actually by, when we first started, there was not many hits on the website, but now we're getting about 10,000 a day. And in 2014, we had about 4.3 million people come to the website. So it's been wonderful. Wow. And we spend primarily how we get girls to come to the website is, when we're talking about the millennial generation who spend more time on the internet and social media than probably anything else. We do primarily internet advertising to get girls to come to the website and to tell them about Stand Up Girl. So a lot of times when a girl's in a situation like this, she's scared, doesn't know what's going on, she'll turn to the internet, type in pregnant to a search engine or am I pregnant, things like that. So we aim to do internet advertising so when that happens, we're one of the first things that she sees instead of something like Planned Parenthood or something like that.
Good for you. All right, tell us about your event scheduled for March 19th here in the Medford area.
Yeah, we have a fundraising gala dinner event on Thursday, March 19th at the Rogue Valley Country Club there in Medford. We're excited to be in the area. We want to tell people about Stand Up Girl, how they can be involved. And as I said, primarily through internet advertising is how we tell girls about Stand Up Girl. So that comes at a cost. And so we're excited to get people involved, tell people how they can help us and how they can reach out to girls in these situations.
All right, so that's coming up March 19th at the Medford Rogue Valley Country Club. And what do they do if they want to participate? Where do they go?
They can email events at standupgirl.com. That's events at standupgirl.com. Or they can call 503-304-1531. Call our office and we can get them signed up for that. We do ask that if they could RSVP by March 9th, that would be great. So,
okay.
We're excited.
All right, that's 503-304 and 1531. Check it out.
Yes, correct.
Now, how is Stand Up Girl different from a pregnancy center?
Well, we are similar in some ways. We all offer hope and encouragement and life-affirming alternatives. We do a lot through social media. We have forums on our website where girls can interact and talk to other girls who have been in the same situation. Pregnancy resource centers actually have physical offices where girls can go. A lot of them are medical centers where they can get ultrasounds, pregnancy tests, things like that. We partner in a lot of ways with pregnancy resource centers. We refer through Option Line on our website so the girls can find the closest pregnancy resource center to them directly from our website. So we partner with them in a lot of ways. We have a similar mission to help these girls find life-affirming alternatives for them and their child.
That's wonderful. Now, I understand you also are able to help men, too. How does that work?
We do. We have offer hope and encouragement to men on our website as well. We do have a special video called Stand Up Guy, on the website, where it speaks directly to men who are in unplanned pregnancy situations, to help them find the courage to stand by their girlfriend and help offer the emotional and financial support that she will need in these situations.
That's wonderful. Well, you know what's so interesting is, again, back to the amount of people that go to your website, millions, and obviously you're reaching people there. That's where a lot of the young girls and guys are trafficking with their information. And you guys are now, what, how many millions hits?
About 10,000 a day. In 2014, that was about 4 million.
Whoa.
For the
So 10,000 a day. So what happens when somebody goes to StandUpGirl.com and they connect? What happens at that point?
They can go to various different parts of the website. We have a section where they can look up information on prenatal development and see pictures of what the baby inside them looks like, how big it is. We have a forum where they can go and chat in real time with another girl who's been in a similar situation. There's a place on there where they can go and look up a pregnancy resource center in their area. There's videos. There's stories, written down stories and articles from other girls.
So, Elizabeth, when a girl comes to you, goes to StandUpGirl.com, connects, what happens if they actually in real time say to you, I'm considering an abortion? What happens then?
We would try to connect them with the Pregnancy Resource Center. We can share stories with them of other girls that have made that decision and how it continues to have a tremendous effect on their life. Let them know that we're praying for them, that we're there for them.
That's wonderful. All right, the big thing though is, I again want to remind you, coming up March 19th will be their fundraiser here in Southern Oregon. It'll be over at the Rogue Valley Country Club. And if you're interested in participating in that and hearing more about it, again, 10,000 hits a day, that is phenomenal. You can call the organization at 503-304-1531 and get a ticket and maybe sponsor a table. What are some of your needs for the upcoming banquet?
Well, we would love to have people attend and hear more about Stand Up Girl. There also is the opportunity for corporate sponsors or to sponsor a table. But we would love to see anybody there who wants to learn more and help support Stand Up Girl as we move to the future. All
right, and that's what it's all about. So again, 503-304-1531 is the phone number to make contact there. Well, Elizabeth, this is great. And again, coming up March 19th here in Medford, 10,000 hits. I'm just kind of mind-boggled the traffic that you have with your website.
Yes, it's incredible. It's a miracle.
Oh, it's a miracle. What's next for you guys? What are you going to do? What do you feel like the next area of growth is for you?
Well, we continue to expand into new areas of social media, so we can always be on the front lines of where the younger generation is. We recently started advertising on other new and up-and-coming internet search engines. We are on all of the major social media sites, so we always keep up to date on what's going on in that arena, so we can be available to these girls on whatever outlets they're on.
All right, well, thank you for your time, and best to you. And again, if you want to learn more about it, you can go to StandUpGirl.com. That is the website, and it's incredible with all the resources that are available there. And if you're interested in attending or being a part or maybe even sponsoring a table for the upcoming banquet for Stand Up Girl in Medford, it's scheduled for March 19th, and that'll be at the Rogue Valley Country Club. And the phone number there is 503-304-1531. Thanks, Elizabeth. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us.